Hi guys, and welcome to Unity tutorial number 16. I'm going to continue where we picked up last time on the navigation of the Unity game engine. Now up here you have a few buttons. You have your pan button, so you click that, you could pan around. You have your move button, so if you have, like, for example, the main camera, move it up, move it down, or any game object can be messed around with like this, moved. You have your rotate, so if I wanted to rotate the camera. Right, and this is more useful, obviously not for the camera, but for other types of game objects. You have scale. Now, I'm not too sure how this is going to work on the camera, per se. But it'll definitely scale up your other game objects. Okay, now this right here, this is a unique tool. I can't show you too well using this, so what I'm just quickly going to do, I'm just going to pull this asset up to here, okay, just to demonstrate. This fifth one here, sorry, lets you could move if you just left click and drag here, okay. I believe there's a way to rotate too. Okay, so if you go right here, you could actually rotate, and you could use these things to scale. And I'm pretty sure if you hold down Shift, yeah, that's going to be your uniform scale key. So if you hold down Shift, you're going to constrain the proportions, and you're going to be scaling completely uniformly. Your most valuable tool is most likely going to be this one here, and your middle mouse button, holding it down just to pan, so you don't have to keep navigating through these things, because what happens when you hold this middle mouse button down, you're going to see that for a moment here, the active icon up here is switched to pan, but then it's set back to the one that you were just on, which is this one here. Now, the reason I think that this is the most valuable tool out of all of them is because you could move easily, you could scale easily, especially hold Shift, use uniform scale, and you could rotate. So this right here is probably your most valuable tool. You're probably going to spend 90% of your time using just this tool in Unity, and you could actually do everything just with this tool. Now down here, you have your create button there. So there's many different ways to create game object. You could go to game object, select from this right here. You could go create, and you have the list right here. Or you could right click, go to create, and then just you have your create settings right here. So you have a bunch of different things. Now this hierarchy here, what this is all the game objects within this current scene. If you click on a game object that's now selected, its properties will come up in the inspector over here. If you unclick the checkbox next to its name, you'll see that it'll disappear. The entire object will disappear from your scene. Well, that's because we've just unclicked this and thus deactivated this object within the Unity scene. Now, if you deactivate a portion of the object over here, you'll notice that the object is still present. Just this component of the object has been deactivated. Okay, and this is really useful for turning off render settings, mesh render settings. Well, depending on if you're using 2D or 3D, you could turn off the render settings of an object and thus have invisible objects with colliders and rigid bodies on them, so that when the player crosses a certain point, you automatically load a level just based on that collision. And what that basically does is the player's not going to see that they hit into something and that's why the level changed, but really they just progressed towards a certain point, they're going to think. But you as the designer, you have to implement these things of when the level is going to change. So we have our hierarchy here, our inspector here, game mode. We have our textured view on right now. We can also jump into a wireframe mode, which, because this is 2D, doesn't look too pretty right now. We have our RGB value set. We could also check out the alphas on these things. Overdraw, MIP maps. Right now, you're going to want to keep that set to RGB and this set to textured. You're in your 2D view right now, but even one big mistake people make, they think because they're using the 2D settings that they can't view this in 3D. They're wrong. If you click this button here, you can now navigate this as a full 3D game. And the way you're going to do that, you're going to hold down the Alt key, and you're going to spin around like this. So what I'm doing right now is I'm holding down the Alt key, left clicking and holding, and simply just moving my mouse around. Okay, so this is really useful. You could use, the render settings to, make one layer render above the other, or you could do what I'm doing here, and you could start pulling objects in front of one another, defaulting them to render in front of one another. I should just use a combination of both, mess around, see what works best for you. So I'm going to put that back to 2D, my brightness. We're turning brightness on and off. It toggles, sorry, not brightness, the built-in lighting. So this is going to toggle your built-in lighting on and off. Sometimes you're going to want to use your own lighting. Sometimes you're going to want to use the built-in. It's all up to you. This right here, I believe, is the volume. Okay, toggles audio on or off. Okay, and effects right here. You have skybox, fog, flares, and animated material. Okay, so now if you click, you'll notice that if you click this arrow here, actually we're running out of time, guys, so I'm actually going to see you in Unity tutorial number 17. Thanks, guys.